So, speaking of the Dems, yeah, right. Should we go take a look at their premier propaganda channel? So, Rachel Maddow has figured this out. She has unlocked the mystery of why it is we're going to war, and it's because of these foreign countries manipulating the president and, the way that Jared Kushner is in hock to them. Guess what country she does not name among the foreign countries that she believes are the primary reason that we are now at war with Iran? I'll just let you guess, and you can listen to what she has to say. Cui bono, right? Who benefits? It's always useful to start with that question in any conflict. Who benefits? Who wants Iran bombed off the map and for their own reasons? Who are Iran's rivals and enemies? Perennially, it's the Gulf Arab states, countries like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Qatar, the country that just gave Donald Trump a really, really nice $400 million plane, really a gilded flying palace for his own use, both during his presidency and after. Trump plans to take that plane with him and keep using it after he leaves office, if he ever leaves office. And you remember the United Arab Emirates, famous for recently structuring a totally pointless crypto financial transaction so that $2 billion of it would be stuffed into the Trump family's otherwise worthless, brand new crypto financial firm. And of course, you remember the Saudis who stuffed another $2 billion into the pockets of Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, just as Trump's first term in office came to a close. You might remember enough people were alarmed about that when it happened, that the Trump folks actually sort of bothered to come up with an excuse for what made that okay. They said, "Don't worry, Jared will never again work for the US government. He's never coming back to Washington, so it's okay that he's taken all this money from the Saudis now. We will never have to worry about having somebody involved in US policy who has also just been given billions of dollars by Saudi Arabia, apparently for no reason." Well, that was the explanation when he took all that money from the Saudis at the end of Trump's first term. And now today, who has been leading the negotiations on behalf of the United States government with Iran before we just started this war with them? I mean, Secretary of State Marco Rubio was in street kits this week. It wasn't him. No, it was Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, recently paid billions of dollars by Iran's chief rival, and nevertheless sitting there alongside Trump's small-time real estate friend, Steve Witkoff, who has sought recently to improve his considerable family fortunes by going to Qatar to seek money from its sovereign wealth fund. Strange that those talks didn't work out, right? I mean, how insane is it at the beginning when she's like, who benefits? Who wants to see Iran bombed? Who constantly hates Iran? And you're like, I know, I know, I know. How about the country run by the guy who said this has been his dream for 40 years? How about that? How about Israel? And Qatar, Saudi. And look, I think there is a point about the Saudis in particular, regional rivals with Iran, Sunni versus Shia, all of that. There's some reporting suggesting the Saudis were in on this war too. Okay, Miriam Adelson gave Trump $100 million, if you're going to talk about the corruption here, gave him $100 million for his campaign. How is that not anywhere in your little listicle here? Like, it is crazy to me. It's the second time she's done this too. This is like she's all in on this. She's all in on this. This is her new Russiagate. And there will be, I don't watch cable news very often, but I'm sure there will be others at the network who take up this line because they realize, she's setting the tone. She's like the quarterback of the network. She sets the tone for what are the acceptable things to talk about and where the narrative is going. And I'm just going to say, even with the Democratic base who probably continues to love Rachel Maddow, this is not going to work. The views on Israel and the overwhelming belief that it was Israel and Trump trying to cover up the Epstein files that effectively got us into this war in Iran that is going to persist among the Democratic base and the broader public, regardless of the way that Rachel Maddow tries to shape this. propaganda effort, but it was wild to see her go down that list and then just leave Israel off entirely. I'm watching it and I'm like, is this willful at this point? And obviously, I think the only answer is yes. It is the only NBC News approved way of being able to talk about corruption and why we got into the war in the first place. You know, every once in a while, they'll have somebody on their network who tells the truth, but be honest. Take a look at CNN, at MSNBC, and Fox. How often do they talk about Israel in a way that actually tells the truth about how they dragged us into this war? Yes, with Trump, but do they talk about the 40-year commitment? Do you hear any of that type of criticism? The closest we got was Laura Ingraham talking to Ted Cruz, asking if it was strange how tied in Lindsey Graham was with Mossad. But even then, she still supports the war, right? That is about as close as I have seen so far. There's been no CNN panels, no MSNBC panels, no guest, almost nothing that actually goes after the true reasons for this. So that's part of the reason why, when you look at public sentiment, first of all, it's remarkable how many people, even with all this overwhelming propaganda, are like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. But second, it explains why the boomers are still where they are right now. They literally just don't have the information, plain and simple. Well, it's also why Tulsi Gabbard is such an important media figure, because they will have her on MSNBC, they have her on CNN, and she's one of the few people that they put on who actually understands the world and tells the truth about what's going on here. But you know, in terms of basically the only group in the country, not basically, literally the only group in the country that still supports Israel the way they used to, it is boomer Republicans. The Democratic base has completely shifted. I mean, it's gone. It is done. It is over. And independents, overwhelmingly as well. We can put this up on the screen from NBC News. It shows you the way that views on Israel have shifted just between 2023 and 2026. So, in 3 years' time, okay, back in 2023, when you asked people, are your views of Israel positive or negative? Overall, 47% said positive and only 24% said negative. Now, the overall numbers, this is not just Democrats, this is the whole country. 32% have a positive view of Israel and 39% have a negative view. So the plurality of the country now has a negative view, and then 30% are neutral or don't know. With Democrats, only 13% still have a positive view of Israel. 57%, a strong near supermajority of Democratic base voters, have an actively negative view of Israel. Back just 3 years ago in 2023, it was evenly split, 34 to 35. In terms of independents, only 21% have a positive view of Israel. The only partisan group that continues to have a net favorable view are Republicans. Even there's been some decline. Back in 2023, 63% of Republicans had a positive view of Israel. Now it's down to 54%. Still a majority, but you can see the erosion among younger Republicans. And as I said before, if you do the age breakdown, it is boomer Republicans who are still carrying the torch for Israel the way that they used to. But I think this is important not only because of the news propaganda piece, but I really think this plays into the way Israel is thinking right now and part of why they're behaving in such a reckless manner. I mean, they have that in them, but why they're lashing out in this extraordinarily aggressive way in Lebanon, in their puppet government, in Syria, obviously in Iran, in the West Bank, in Gaza, it's because they know their political clock is ticking. The lockstep support that they have had from both Democrats and Republicans is over. They've got their guy in the White House right now. They need to go for it all, the whole thing right now, because there are going to be no guarantees for them in the future.